And the first thing is just, I want to lose weight. But a lot of the time they don't realize that stress has been a big part of the reason, because then they've been emotional eating or stress eating, or not eating enough of the right foods that nourish them, because they're just stressed and they don't have time, and they like, it just becomes this sort of really negative domino effect into all areas of their life.
Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 253. In this episode, you're going to hear from Vicky Van De Luecht. Vicky mentors women to honor the powerful, whole humans that they are, and to help them experience fulfillment in all areas of their life. Vicky owns a gym, and in this episode, we talk all about worthiness, mom guilt, grief, and then, of course, the flip side of grief, joy. This episode's a good one. And what I really appreciate about Vicky is just her honesty and vulnerability and just willingness to share her hardships and what she's been through. So if you love this episode, I would be so grateful. Head on over to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. That way, other badasses just like you can find the show. And then, of course, take a screenshot, throw it in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Ordinary to Badass. That way I can make sure to say thank you, because I know that you're busy, and I'm super grateful for you listening to this episode or listening to this podcast and then also sharing it. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm so glad you're here. Today's guest is Vicky Van De Luecht. Vicky, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Marie. I'm so excited to be part of this beautiful podcast and space that you have created.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Oh, I just said to Marie before, I think I was born badass, but yes, I definitely went from ordinary to badass, probably externally. Yes, I do.
So was it just one thing that happened that made you feel like a badass, or like a series of events?
It definitely has been a journey. So a series of events and just different life situations that I've come across in my life has definitely brought different experiences, which has created a different mindset and a different inner being of myself and who I am. Yeah.
What is one thing that you've done that has made you feel more badass?
One thing I've done. Ooh, there's so many. I would say one definitely thing is creating the beautiful facility that we have here in Sydney in Australia. So we own, my husband and I have created, for the past 9 years, we've owned a wellness facility, which offers strength training, yoga, and all like wellness style, and just the impact that has on so many. So that's definitely a very proud achievement of mine. And yeah, has had beautiful successes along the way.
Okay, I can't wait to dig into it and find out more. But first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm 32 years old, and I have obviously a personal training studio. I am now a mother to a 21-month-old and exploring all that, I guess, new changes that comes from being like this whole identity of being a business owner and, all this masculine energy around owning a business and doing that, and then exploring motherhood, which has totally stepped me out of my comfort zone, but becomes such a big part of who I am now. And And now I've just started to do and explore more mindset related programs and journeys for clients. So I do this all online. So I now do transformation programs online. I've got one running at the moment, which is a group transformation program called Radiance. And this helps women see their inner being and heal their inner self to create their beautiful external worlds.
So let's talk about that, about healing their inner self. How is that helpful, or why is that necessary when it comes to your health?
It is absolutely, I believe it's the first step. I think for myself, I took this journey of always looking externally to, like get a better body or get a better physical transformation. And I, constantly did so much things to try and get that, but not realizing that it was my inner world, like my thoughts, my beliefs, and the things that shaped who I was actually the identity that I believed of myself at that time. So for me, shifting that perspective and changing my thoughts, alleviating, limiting beliefs that I had around what I could achieve and what I couldn't achieve. And also just all that, all the labels that we sort of get put on ourselves, especially for myself as a woman, I, had all these different expectations that I felt like I had to live up to, being a mum. I had to be, sort of, oh, you're a stay-at-home mum or you're a working mum. Like there was no real, like, you didn't have to be either. You could have both and live both. You could be a CEO, you could be a mother, you could be, you could do it all. You could be a wife, you can do everything. And when we're able to shift that internal dialogue, it really does start creating more beautiful thoughts, which then creates a more beautiful external world, including your physical self. Which is huge. I think it makes you more conscious of the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis. And it also, it creates that calm in the chaos. So you're more likely to make better choices in life, whether that's nutrition related or movement related, or even just relationships or anything really.
What is an inner dialogue that people come to you with? Like maybe the most common inner dialogue, and then how do you help them move past it or switch to a new one?
Yeah, cool. So one that definitely comes out is worthiness. So I'm not deserving of this, or I'm not worth whatever this desire is. So first of all, it's just identifying. Number one is to identify the beliefs, and different things can trigger these different beliefs. So number one is finding this, identifying the belief. Number two is then looking at it and reading it and saying, when you write it down, is this ultimately true? Is this ultimately true? And the answer is always no. Like this, it's never true, right? It's something that we just created. It might be past experiences. It might be childhood. It might be just different circumstances that made us believe that this was true. And when we look at it, we go, no, this is not ultimately true. Then we can recreate that belief. We can recreate the story that you actually want to have, and the truth, like the truth that you want to create. So it could be, I am worthy, I'm enough, I am love, I am light. Like there's many different ones, the ones that resonate obviously with yourself the most. And then from there, go out and use that as much as possible. And I think finding evidence is a really good way as well. Finding evidence that you are enough. You are, like some as well as like, I'm not a good friend, or I don't give enough time to, my kids or whatever. Find evidence that you do that, because there is evidence there that there it is. And the more that you can believe it, like it's such a belief thing. The more you believe it, the more you'll become as well. You'll become it. So yeah, that's a step that I would go through.
So do you do things to remind yourself, or even if you recommend it to your clients, to remind yourself that they are enough, or whatever it is that they're trying to go for? And if so, what are those things that you do, or you recommend they do?
I definitely embody all of this, and because I do believe it's a forever journey. It's not something that, these beliefs come up and you deal with them, and then like you might find you recreate the story and you're really strong, like, you're really working on those limiting beliefs, but then a year or two later an experience pops up or something triggers you, and this belief comes back up. And it can be really like hardwired into you. So that reprogramming does take time. And also it's a forever journey. New things are going to show up. So for me, the way that I embody it, and, you know, I teach my clients is that, first of all, journaling is beautiful. So morning and night is a great way to do it. For me, I have 5 affirmations that I work with every single morning. So that's something that I journal out. I have in the past written these out like 25 times. So like just writing the same one until I feel really, truly felt that belief within me, because the feeling is the most important for any manifestation. We know that, you know, feeling is the most important way to manifest, but also even just to shift that belief within you. So getting into that feeling state. So I journal, and then I'll go through a meditation, and I'll actually get into that feeling of that new belief, that new affirmation, whatever, you know, or the new story. And I'm really getting into the feeling state of it. So I do that in the morning. And then in the afternoon, in the evening, I'll do a similar practice, but more towards my future goals. And this allows me to, get into that state of where I want to get to and my desires that I do have. And I love this one as well. I love exercising and repeating 2 words that are aligned with my new belief. So it might be, just say my new belief is I'm a good person. I could then be, you know, doing my exercise. I do 30 minutes of daily movement a day. That's a real high priority of mine. And in that, I'll repeat as many times as I remember, as thoughts come up, 2 words that align with that. So it might be just even good person. I'm a beautiful person. Like, and I just repeat that as many times as I remember during that. And when you're in that good flowing state and got those good endorphins going, it's a really nice way to integrate it into your being as well.
Yeah, I like that. I haven't heard that before. And I like, you know, the exercise along with the positive thought, because I think that your brain works a little bit differently when you're in the middle of exercise. So I like that.
Yeah, it does. Definitely.
So let's talk. I know we're kind of talking about mindset, but more diving in on mindset and how it has to do with your exercise, and then how it affects your health as well.
Yeah, cool. So thoughts within, like, there's a lot of studies and research that show now how much thoughts can, I mean, it's been around for a long time, can create different health issues within the body. So I actually did an experiment about 7 years ago. I saw this experiment done. I thought, I want to give it a go. And I did, I cut an apple in half. And I put the apple, I did a whole video on it, and I put one apple in a glass container and the other one in exactly the same sort of glass container, and sealed it, and then put it on the bench. And I did this for over 30 days. I spoke negatively to one apple and then positively to the other apple. And it was strange, obviously. A lot of people were like, what are you doing? Because I did this at work. And the difference in 30 days that these apples had, like the one that I was speaking negative words to and negative language to, it was very rotten. It literally was black and moldy. And the other one had a little bit of brownness to it, but nowhere near the amount that the other one. And I think that really resembles what thoughts can actually do, because it's just energy, right? Like everything's energy, and thoughts are a part of that. So when we're talking about ourselves about that, like, you know, those thoughts, or we have these thoughts replaying in our minds, this is obviously can create a lot of resistance within the body, and resistance can come up as illness or sickness or injuries, or, you know, different health issues as well. So that's a big part of, like, by shifting, you know, a lot of people are like, you know, I exercise because I hate this about my body. I want to train really hard because I want to get, you know, better shoulders because I hate my shoulders. When we're doing that, we're like, it's actually opposite to the law. Like, you're actually resisting against what you're trying to create. We know that when we have gratitude and love for what we have, it can only prosper and flourish more. So it's just like the apple, right? The apple was flourishing a lot better than the other one. So the more positive you can talk about yourself and your body, which can be challenging when we have had these beliefs about our body or ourselves for so long. So yeah, but it makes a big difference, and it allows you to make better decisions, because now you're shifting. Like, just say I said, I'm a lazy person, I'm not good enough to get that result. That straight away you can feel that within your being. That, are you going to be motivated to go and exercise, or are you going to be motivated to eat healthy? Possibly not, So, but when you talk to yourself in a real positive way, you're going to be more motivated to make better choices, be more conscious, and be more mindful about how you're nourishing your body and your mind as well.
What effect have you seen that have on your clients?
Oh, at the start, it's very subtle. Like, that you can just see like happiness, like more joy within their being. But I think as well, like, remembering when we do this inner work, it is a journey, and it can be, challenging at times. Like, it's a beautiful, beautiful journey, but it definitely can be a challenge. But once you go through, bringing up these beliefs and starting to really become self-awareness is everything, right? So the more you become aware of them, the more you can walk yourself through it. The other side of that, there's like, when you're happy, you make better choices. When you're in a state of pure happiness and joy, you don't have to overindulge in foods and, make decisions that are going to leave you feeling guilty or shameful, because you're just doing everything in a state of joy and happiness. So it's not necessary. Like, you're just not going to do that. So for me, at the start, what I notice is just that subtle happiness and joy that just a happier being. And then from there, you just notice, relationships start changing, which then change the dynamic within, their home or their life. And then they start making better choices because they're starting to nurture and love their bodies rather than, hate and exercise it all off because it's all about calories. It's more now about their inner being and their inner connection of self. And the closer we can get back to our connection of ourself, and with the closer connection we can get to life as well. Yeah.
So I know you like to talk about happiness and joy and how that relates to health. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I just feel like it's a huge part of how I got myself to that point. I know when, I had a lot of anxiety growing up, and, running a business at a very young age. I started my business when I was 22, and it was like a lot of, I felt a lot of stresses externally from me. And when I was in that state of being, I didn't look after my health. I did the wrong things to my health to try and get a result. And it led me to burnout. It led me to feeling exhausted, and just, it became like a hamster wheel of just exhaustion, tiredness, unhappiness. Really, there was no real joy. I was always looking external of me for that joy and happiness, not realizing that all of that was already within myself. So I think just through my own experience, being in finding that joy and happiness within me. And of course, it's a forever journey. It doesn't mean I don't have those other moments as well, but I honor them now, and I don't suppress them. I allow them to move through me. And then, it's just allowed me to have my best physical transformation.
So how are you going to foster that joy, that happiness, with your child? And I mean, I think that could be a struggle for parents, managing emotions with kids. But how are you going to foster that?
He's a toddler now too, so it's definitely and this is the thing, right? The more and having my practices, like my meditation in the morning, so I get up an hour earlier than he does, 2 hours 3 hours earlier than he does. So I get up at 2 hours, sorry. I get up at 5 a.m. and I start all my rituals then. And that time is really sacred and allows me to be in a really good space. And it doesn't mean throughout the day, if I've had some challenges at work or whatever, if things like that come up, it doesn't mean, I'm always completely bringing that, that joy and that happiness for him, but he brings so much of that already for me. But, when he's having, going through his different emotions and challenges himself, and I'm like that, I notice that definitely we just bounce off each other and it becomes a lot worse. And that's when I allow myself to have 5 minutes of just space and just use my breath work and just get back and centered. And that calm mind makes such a big difference to how I react and respond with him.
So do you notice a difference then on the days where you miss, or maybe your spouse notices a difference on days where you don't get to do your morning routine?
100%. I actually went through a period not long ago, Marie, that I decided that I wanted to be more productive at 5 a.m. because I was reading a book about productivity and how you're most productive at 5 a.m. and people that do too many rituals in the morning, they're not being productive. And I got into that. I'm such a rule follower. So I'm like, I'm going to try this and really give it a go. So I stopped all my rituals in the morning and I just started to be more productive. But my mentor then just told me, because it left me in such, I had way more anxiety. I wasn't present with, my son's name's Byron. So I wasn't present with Byron. I felt like I was just, again, back on this hamster wheel, of just working, coming home. And there was no real space for myself in between that because I just wanted to be productive. It wasn't that long ago, to be honest. I tried it for about 2 weeks. And then my mentor was like, you know what, the most productive time that you do for yourself is when you do your practice and rituals. So realizing that space that you give yourself is actually the most sacred time that you can do for the entire day. Even if it's just 10 minutes, it doesn't have to be long. I think that's where we get caught up too. We think it has to be half an hour or, I can't sit still. And I was one of those people, I can't sit still for 5 minutes, and yeah, but just breaking down those beliefs because it's not true. I can, and it's probably that my mind is a monkey mind that I actually need to do this stillness practice even more than the person who doesn't have a monkey mind.
So I know earlier you had talked about kind of suffering from burnout early on because you were working in the masculine energy and just going, doing. What are maybe signs that you had then or things that you can recognize now when you start going down that path? And then what do you do to combat that?
Yeah, awesome. So definitely signs for me is how my digestive system reacts. So I get really poor gut health when I'm in a stressful state. So a lot of our gut health is related back to stress. And so that's something I pick up straight away. So just feeling really bloated all the time, off stomach all the time, not going to the bathroom regularly can be one, or then the complete opposite, going too regularly. So that's a huge one, digestive issues for myself. And then even my skin, I start breaking out. That's a big one as well. And then mood and energy is massive, and sleep. Yes, sleep's a big one too. I do not I went through stage where I was getting up every 90 minutes and I couldn't, it would take me an hour to get back to sleep. My son was going through a really a challenging time with his sleep at that stage as well. So when he actually started to improve 3 months later, I was still in that, getting up every 90 minutes. But even when I was training way too much, way too hard, my sleep quality was terrible. I was sleeping enough, but the quality was really poor. So, and a way that I got myself out of it is just recognizing these, being just self-aware of this, because I think a lot of people don't notice, they have gut issues or they're not going to the bathroom regularly. They have poor sleep. They have poor energy, lethargicness, but then they just think it's normal and I did, I just thought, oh, that's just normal. It's part of, owning a business. This is just what it's like, but it doesn't have to be, and actually when I've been able to improve all those areas of my life by, first of all, addressing the stress, my business has flourished, my relationships has flourished, my relationship with Byron has flourished. So by actually addressing that and realizing you don't have to have digestive issues, you don't have to have skin issues, you don't have to have, sleep problems. First and foremost, I think was the most important part, and self-awareness is huge.
Yeah, it really is crazy how much stress plays a role on our lives, and it kind of bleeds over and affects every area of our life. And unless we're really paying attention to it or being intentional about, self-care or meditation or ways to ease that stress, then it really can just take all areas of your life.
100%. I totally agree. 95% of lifestyle diseases are created from stress, which is huge, and that's a big part that we don't tend to address. Like if someone wants to come and train at our facility, like when we ask them, we do quite an intensive goal, like what their goals are and what their intentions are. And the first thing is just, I want to lose weight. But a lot of the time they don't realize that stress has been a big part of the reason, because then they've been emotional eating or stress eating or not eating enough of the right foods that nourish them, because they're just stressed and they don't have time, and it just becomes this sort of really negative domino effect into all areas of their life.
So when people are in that phase, we're in the negative domino effect, and they're probably not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel necessarily, and they're not sure where to go or what to do. What's the first step that you often recommend?
This is very personalized and individualized, because it's self-awareness of what actually needs addressing first. And I think a lot of the time we know that, as individuals, we know the answer to that, but it's making room for it and making space for it. So a lot of the time it's just creating space to take a look. And the first step is the most important, I think, actually having that self-awareness, and then doing one habit. It doesn't have to be I think that's where it becomes a bit overwhelming when we've already got all these stresses external. We have to think, we have to exercise, we have to, do our nutrition, we've got to meditate. We think we have to do all of it, but you don't. If you just start with one, it might just be moving more that week. And it doesn't have to be, if you're not doing any movement at all, even if you just start with 30 minutes once a week, and you commit yourself and you honor yourself and you get really intentional about doing that once a week, I think that starts creating that momentum forward.
Yes. And the power of habits. And I always tell myself I need to get better with the habits. But previously we had Stephanie Lueres on the podcast, and she had said when she was extremely overweight, she would just make a habit of getting exercise by going out to get the mail every single day. Even though that doesn't sound like it's a huge thing, it's it's taking action, it's taking steps. And so, yeah, I love that you said the idea about just creating small habits, because I think that has a huge impact.
Huge. And you can stack on those habits. It takes 66 days, they show, that to create a new habit. And really, so even if you just do this one habit, and you're exactly right, just like Stephanie, walk into the letterbox, perfect. You do that for 66 days. I think what happens is that we want instant gratification. It's taken, years and years for us to get to this state of health. But yet when we decide that we want it, to get healthier, and we want that physical transformation, we want it yesterday, once we decide. So it's understanding it's a journey and enjoying the journey. I think that's my number one key thing is don't we get so fixated on the outcome, but it's actually within the journey that has the most rewards, because it teaches you so much about yourself. Yeah.
So do you do anything to remind yourself to enjoy the journey?
Yeah, I think my practices, every day, and I still need reminding. I'm completely human. But I love doing my at night time, my evenings, is just really sitting in the greatness of every day and the blessings that were within that day. And that just allows me to be present and to be yes, I do have all these beautiful desires, and I deserve them, and I'm going to achieve them. But it's also right now in this moment, this is the greatness of today. This is the beauty of today. And we bring ourselves to that present moment really grounds us and allows us to appreciate the journey, because there's so many lessons within that journey. And if we all want to be, here at the end, but it's actually that journey that teaches you the most in life.
Yes. And it sounds like, like at the beginning, how you said the masculine energy, go, 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 do. And you kind of forget all of the good things, and you forget to stop and take a breath and like realize, what you've accomplished. So it's good to kind of have some balance. Yes, there's times to hustle, but there's also times to like experience the gratitude and be grateful for what you have.
Yeah. And I think that's the part that I used to always be challenged with, because I always desired more. And now I've come to realize that desires are beautiful, and it's not that moving the goalpost and wanting to achieve more is a bad thing. Because I think sometimes we think that as well. We think, oh, why can't we're taught at a young age, be grateful for what you have, which is beautiful and it's true, but you can also still desire more, but hold that gratitude for what you have achieved and gone through. Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned how going into motherhood, how that was different and a new role for you, and being a business owner, I can imagine that it would be hard. Do you ever struggle, or have you ever struggled with mom guilt, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I love that question, because I think it's something that came up for me very like at the early stages. And one of my childhood things is seeing my mum hold a lot of that as well. My mum held a lot of, she did everything for us. So she was a single mum with 3 girls. And so that I watched her, sacrifice a lot of her own things that she wanted to do, and so we could be able to do the things we wanted to do. And so having that sort of programmed in me, but I realized as well that we can have, like, it can be all can be had. So I think for me, when that guilt came up early on, and it still does come up for me, but it's understanding for me that the more I look after myself, the more I can actually give to him. And I've noticed that firsthand, when I have through my pregnancy, I had put on 22 kilos. So I, like, at the beginning of my pregnancy, postpartum, I, didn't feel myself at all, and just getting myself back into exercise and, starting to nourish my body, and like breastfeeding and all that new things that sort of my body was experiencing. And then when I did take time out and, even with him, I took myself for a half an hour walk with him, or I left, my husband would come home and then I would go train. Like, there was times where I'm like, no, like, I need to be with him. And I realized this is actually the most precious time that I can take right now for him, is this time that I have for myself, because we can't look after anyone else if we don't have a full cup. I think that's because I think sometimes as well we think, looking after others, it actually requires a full cup plus overflow, and then you look after others with the overflow and you keep your cup full. That was like one of the best analogies that I've heard before, and it's so true.
Yes, it's so important. So I'd like to pivot a little bit and talk about some of the hardships that you've experienced. I know with social media, it can seem like everything's gumdrops and lollipops for everybody. You don't necessarily see the behind the scenes. So can you share with us a hardship that you've been through?
There's been quite a few different experiences that I've had over the years. I guess starting from right from the beginning, like the way that I like my mum was obviously a single mum, so I kind of went out and moved out of home quite young. Well, not young, but when I was 18, and I sort of started, my full-time work straight away, and had this thing of earning, being independent and earning my way through life. And so everything I own is everything that I've created myself. I think that's a real beautiful thing there's been hardships, but there's also been all those blessings that I see within it now. In the last 5 years, we've had, a passing from someone, like from loved ones, every single year. So my husband lost his eldest sister at a very young age. I lost one of my clients to cancer, and then we had Mitch's best friend passed away from a bee sting. So there's been like different challenges. And then most recently we had one of our coaches pass away, which like all our coaches here are like our family. So I think just even in that time leading ourselves through grief, but also like the community through grief. And I think it's been, I guess, one of the hardest things that I've ever had to sort of been challenged with before. But it's also, and at that time as well, I found out I was pregnant. So this was 2 years ago. So I think that's definitely some of the harder times we've had. And I think grief is something so, so different. I think I had to honor myself through that time and really allow those emotions to come up. I think grief is so different to like anything that I've ever experienced. So I think that has been some challenging times. Yeah.
And then also like the competing emotions, like if you're grieving because you lost a loved one and then you're excited because you're having a baby, and then sometimes there could be like the guilt for feeling joy again. There's a lot to unpack there.
That was so much for me, Marie. And like, because we lost this coach at an event of ours, so it was something that we also experienced firsthand. And I didn't find out I was pregnant until like 2 weeks later. I thought I just had lost my period because I was so stressed and it was like traumatic and there was just all that going on for me. But when I found out I was pregnant, and that was the reason why I had lost my period, and then obviously, I'd say the first 9 months was exactly that, just, trying to feel that joy because I should feel this joy because, I've got this beautiful blessing in coming my way, but also feeling this like real heavy grief and sadness around, the loss of a loved one. So that was definitely a very challenging time, heightened with all the different hormones that come with that as well. Definitely.
Yeah, no, and thank you for being so open about that. I know sometimes like talking about death and stuff, that can be very hard to talk about and express. Through all those hardships, what did you learn? What did it teach you?
There was so much duality, I think in terms of my, the last experience, there was just so much duality. I think it's taught me so much that and so much comes up in my life, in all of our lives. Duality is always happening, right? Like this real beautiful thing can be happening, but this real like sadness can be happening. But it's okay that they both can be there, because I think I was in that stage, obviously in the very early days. It was so hard to feel any joy and so much guilt because I wasn't feeling joy for it, but honoring as well that, this sadness had to move through me and I had to feel this grief and move myself through it. I think duality, I think it's teaching me that, like so many lessons. About 8 years ago, I did an experience called Vipassana. Have you heard of that before? Where you do 10 days of silence.
Mm-mm.
You don't, so I did 10 days of silence where you don't read, you don't write, you don't exercise, you meditate 14 hours a day. And it was a real, like, everyone's like, oh my God, I can see you doing that. But at the time I was not into meditation. I don't think I even meditated back then. Like I just threw myself into this experience, but it teaches you all about impermanence and, the way that life kind of flows, and that, not getting so attached to so many things. And I think all those lessons came up for me through that time too. It's just the beauty of life. Like we look into nature and all of that's happening all the time, and it's allowing ourselves to move ourselves through that. Yeah.
I think sometimes we have to do things that might seem extreme. Like you said, like going on that meditation retreat for, did you say it was 10 days? Yeah. And like no talking, no whatever. But like, if you want to change in your life, sometimes you have to do something that's like massively different than what you've done before. Yeah.
I was only thinking that just before, like how making bold decisions like that and taking yourself through that can completely, change your life. And sometimes being brave, and doing that can be, especially when if your gut says yeah, or whatever, your sacral, and it says yes, 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 you need to do that. I think you just got to go with it and be bold and brave and do it, because they've been some of the best experiences, and it really can shift the direction of your life as well.
And I would think like confidence too, like you get more confidence in yourself, you get more confidence in your intuition. And so like maybe next time an experience like that comes up, then you're more likely to say yes, because you trust that it worked for you before.
So true. Yeah. You're just like, why wouldn't I say yes?
Exactly. So let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
Tip, I would say enjoy the journey. I say enjoy the journey, enjoy the process. Look at everything as a lesson or experience or a blessing that's come up for you, and just start seeing more of the blessings within each challenging moment, and write them out, journal them, and just sit with it, because I think there's so much that can be uncovered and unraveled from that.
And how can we connect with you?
Through Instagram. So my IG handle is at organically_you. And yeah, that would be the best way. I've also got a website, which I'll just send to you too, as Marie, and you can connect with me through that.
Okay, awesome. I will throw it in the show notes. Thank you so much, Vicky. You've been a total badass, and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you so much, Marie. You have a beautiful day.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. Okay, wasn't that episode with Vicky amazing? Let's go through 5 takeaways. 1, when it comes to worthiness. First, identify the belief. Second, write it down and ask if this is ultimately true. 3, recreate the story. I'm worthy. I am enough. And then 4, find evidence. So if you're not thinking you're enough, find evidence that you're enough. What have you done in your life that's proof that you are enough? Number 2, while exercising, repeat 2 words as often as you can. Like if you want to start telling yourself that you're a good person, just say good person, good person, good person, and say it as many times as you can think while you're running or while you're exercising. 3, notice signs of burnout. Maybe it's your gut health, your digestive issues, if your skin starts breaking out. Pay attention to your mood and your energy and your sleep quality. If your sleep quality is terrible, that might be a sign that you're headed for burnout. Number 4, be aware of what you want to change, and then focus on one habit that you want to change. So instead of focusing on a ton of things at once, just focus on the first habit. Keep it simple. Number 5, right now, in this moment, this is the greatness of today. Appreciate your journey and the lessons within the journey. Okay, amazing, right? So make sure, tune in here on Thursday to hear 3 reasons why Vicky Van De Luecht is so badass.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass, and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.